Claudia. I'm a self-proclaimed bookworm. My boyfriend, not so much. So I started summarizing entire books for him. Dramatic plot twists, romantic betrayals, magical quests, all of it. Basically, he gets the story without reading a single page. And now I'm doing the same for you. Welcome to The Whole Story, the channel where I read the book and then tell you the whole story, literally. Fantasy, romance, literary fiction. If it has yearning, magic, or emotional damage, I've got you covered. I'll tell you the whole story in 30 minutes or less, spoilers included. Yes, I will tell you who dies, who cries, and who should have just gone to therapy. So, if you like books, but you don't have the time to read all of them, or you just want to know what happens without the emotional labor, hit subscribe and let's write some endings together. Yeah, because life's too short to read 700 pages of slow burn, unless you're into it. I kinda am. Hi! So today we're going to talk about The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and this is a fantasy book, and it is quite a ride. The story starts with a man who is in a city on top of a hill, and he's accompanied by someone, and he basically just pulls the strength from the center of the earth and moves the whole plateau where they're standing and creates a huge earthquake that moves everything and basically destroys the city. So that's how it starts. And the narrator on this book, it's quite interesting because it's the narrator as an omniscient narrator talking to you directly as the reader. And it literally says something like, oh wait, let me give you some context so you understand what I'm talking about. Haha. So it's really strange, but kind of original. And then we get going with the proper story. The narrator says, let me introduce you to some people so you can follow the story along. And we get the whole story from 3 different perspectives. The first person that we meet is Esun. And the whole story takes place in a continent called the Stillness. And they do say there's a lot of context, a lot of world building in this book. But basically the Stillness is one large continent that suffers from a lot of earthquakes that are happening every now and then. So everyone has developed a very different manner of surviving and living. You know, so the buildings are all made in a specific way, the crops are made in a specific way. Everything has been built for humanity to survive, right? So then if there's a really big earthquake or if there's a season, which is something that would start with a big event, you know, like a plague or a big storm that would kill all the crops, or a heavy rainfall that would prevent the crops from growing. So there has been a lot of big events that have changed how the society lives. Another piece of context that it's interesting is that in all of this, the race that is standard is actually Black people. So the pale ones are not that common. It's one of the few books where the main race is the darker ones. And then there's all this thing about different ethnicities and the sunset and mixed people and mixed races and everything. But the main race is Black people. Across all of this, there is one city that has survived for like 27 centuries already. And it's called the Humanist city. And it has asphalt and obsidian buildings and a big pyramid thing. But we start the story following Esun, who is not in big cities. She's one of the smaller cities that, you know, has their own ways of surviving and living and everything. Even the castes, or like the factions, if you think about it, are divided based on what you can provide to society. So the strong people are called the strong back, and then there's people that are good for breeding and caring, and there's people that are good for leadership, etc. So the society is very much built upon what skills you can bring to your tribe or to your small village. We start with Esun, and Esun is having a really hard time. She has just found her baby boy dead. And she is going through very deep grief. The worst part of this is that she knows that her kid was murdered by her husband. So the father actually beat the kid to death. So Esun is bent on revenge. She has a plan. She spends like 2-3 days without talking, sleeping, or anything. She's just crying, feeling all her grief. And after that, she decides that she's going on a mission. She's going to find her husband, who took off with her daughter. So they had 2 kids. And the husband took off with the daughter. And now she has to go and find him, save the daughter, and kill him. A revenge, full on. Parallel to this, that big earthquake was just caused by that man on top of the hill. And the earthquake has created shakes, right? So smaller shakes, the aftermath, it's destroyed the big city, Jemisin, and it's expanding throughout the whole continent. So all of the villages on I don't know how many kilometers radius are being destroyed by the strength and the power of this earthquake that he created. So they finally, the sheikhs finally make it to the small village where Asun is. And what you start to realize is that there's powers and then there's magic. So there are specific people in this continent that are called origins, and they have the power to control the earth. So there's all of these shakes happening, and some of the most powerful people are the origins because they can control the shakes. And they can either stop the earthquake or they can start it. So the man on top of the hill, he's an origin. And you find out that Asun is also an origin. But somehow, in this crazy, crazy world, the people that should have the most power are actually very powerless, because the empire, that's the people that are ruling the whole continent, right? The empire, they are trying to control the origins. So they are almost like slaves. They don't really have that much influence or power over their own lives, and the empire really controls everything that they do. So if you are an origin, unless you are a fulcrum origin, which means that you belong to the empire, you are in real danger, because if people find out that you're an origin, they will either kill you or they betray you or they give you over to the empire. So Asun has been, for years, Asun has been pretending to be normal, right? And keeping her powers hidden so that she's not in trouble. And one of the reasons why her husband killed their son is because he found out that the son has powers. Both her kids actually have powers. And the girl, she's older, but she's been containing it a little bit more, so no one knows. This is important because when there's this big earthquake going on, it finally arrives to the village where Asun is, and inadvertently she tries to protect herself and to protect the village, because she doesn't want to die. She has a mission, she has something to do. So she creates kind of like a bubble around the village, and the earthquake just passes through, and all around them, everything is destroyed except the village. So people kind of know that there is an origin in their midst, because otherwise they would have died. And instead of being thankful, they're like, where is this origin? We need to go and kill them. And she does all of this to protect them, right? Because she does want to help them. These are the people that she's been living with for years, even though she wasn't really one of them. But while she's trying to leave, they attack her, and then she actually ends up killing a lot of them by mistake. So whenever she tries to pull the strength and the power from the center of the earth, there is usually like a circle around her that gets affected, right? And very powerful, very skilled people, they can control this circle or shoot it up so it doesn't affect the people around. But since she's so emotional and there's so much going on, she can't help it, and she actually ends up killing a lot of people in her effort to leave. So parallel to this, we start the second point of view, the second story, which is the story of a girl called Maya. And she lives in a small village on the other side of the continent. Her mother has called a guardian to come pick her up, a guardian from the empire. And her mom, she basically sold her daughter to the empire because she found out that her daughter has powers. And she thought that she could, save everybody and save her from herself. But basically, she's just selling her daughter for money. So poor Maya is sad and afraid. And she's about to meet this guardian guy from the empire. His name is Shafa. And he is scary. So he comes, he picks her up, and they travel to the big city, Jemisin, where she's going to live the rest of her life and be trained as a fulcrum origin, right? So an origin that works for the empire. And the whole trip, you start to see like their relationship is going to become really strange, because he's there to protect her and to help her, and he's very much like, I'm here for you, and this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, you are so strong, you shouldn't let them see you cry, I'm here for you, I'll always be there for you. But at the same time, he's the one that his job is to control her and to make sure that she doesn't know how powerful she is and that she doesn't slip through the claws of the empire, right? So while they're traveling to Humanist, he actually breaks her hand to show her that she is too young and immature and that she cannot control her power, and therefore she needs him to help her control her power, because without controlling her power, she's just gonna hurt people. So he breaks her hand in an effort to teach her a lesson, and then he tells her, like, I do not want to hurt you, but I will. If I have to, I will hurt you. Which is crazy. Like, he's like a father figure for her, because he's there because he loves her and he wants to protect her, and that's why he hurts her, because it's his job and it's his duty. Anyways, the Maya makes it to Humanist, and she starts to train. So there is a school called the Fulcrum, and this is like, you know, think Harry Potter, where there's several years and all the kids are being taught all the rules, and they have classes, and they start to master their magic and to understand how the origins have their power, what are the rules, etc. And instead of years, you have rings. So as you start, you're a novice, you don't have anything, but throughout the years, you're going to pass different tests. And as you pass the tests, showing your skill and abilities, you get a ring. And the more rings you have, the more powerful you are, of course. The maximum you can have is 10 rings. So in the first year or so, you see the Maya struggling a little bit. She's a bit of a quiet kid. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She does get bullied at some point. Someone tries to hurt her and kick her out of the school, and she just turns it back around and she ends up hurting them instead. So she's a bit vicious. She's very cunning, but it does cause her to become a very lonely child, basically, who doesn't have a lot of friends. Here we skip to the third point of view, which is another girl called Cyanide, or Cien. Cien is a fourth ringer. She is in Fulcrum, and she's been given a mission to go to another village that is on the coast that basically has asked the Fulcrum for help. So the Empire does is they get requests from different villages around the continent that they need help from Origin. And the Empire sends their Fulcrum Origins to go and help them in exchange for money. So these are basically slaves. They're made to believe that they have a lot of freedom and they're there to help them, and the Guardians are there to help them. But if you are not an Origin under the control of the Empire, you are an Origin running for your life, trying not to get killed, right? And then when you're in the Fulcrum, even though you've passed all of these rings and you're an adult who has your own freedom and your own life, you are still at their beck and call, and they can just send you on missions and they get paid. You don't get paid. You are lucky to be alive. Crazy. So Cyanide is given this mission to go to this coastal town and help them out, because they have a coral reef that is blocking the entrance to the harbor. And they survive, that village survives on trading from ships. So they need the Origins to come and take out the coral reef so that the boats can come in and out. And they're paying really good money for this. But Cyanide is only a 4-ringer, so she is not allowed to go out by herself. Only from 5 rings on can you go out by yourself on missions. So she has been paired with a 10-ringer, which is like the most powerful Origin in the continent, basically. There's not a lot of them. And this guy's name is Alabaster. They have to go and travel to Alia, which is like across the whole continent. So it's going to take them like a month to travel. And throughout the way, they actually have to sleep together, because, fun tidbit, the Empire also tells you what you have to do to contribute to the growth of the community and the society. Like I said, everyone has their own roles in the society, and Cyanide is a breather. And they want, the Origin is actually magic that is passed on by genetics. So if you have a kid, there is a 50-50 chance that they will also be an Origin. And in this case, pairing a very, very powerful origin, a 10 ringer, with another origin, it increases the odds that their kid is going to be origin as well. And the Empire needs more origins. So they actually tell her, go do this mission. And by the way, we expect you to have a baby with Alabaster because the Empire deems it so. So they're traveling to Alia. They're sleeping together every single night, even though they hate each other. He is very tired of this whole Empire bullshit. He is not taking any of this. He understands that they are actually just slaves and he wants to rebel against them, but he doesn't know how. And Cyanide is more like, well, I just want my freedom and I have ambition. I want to become a very powerful origin within the Empire so that I have my freedom. And he's like, well, you're never going to have freedom as long as you're with the Empire. You need to get out of there. So they actually fight quite a lot and they don't like each other very much. And then when they get to the coastal town, finally, they're treated like shit because everywhere around the continent, around the stillness, people really see them as slaves, you know, like, oh, we're paying for you to be here, so go and do your job. And it doesn't go very well. They try to kill them at some point, but they survive because they're very powerful, both of them. So they survive, and Alabaster is actually kind of weak after, you know, trying to survive their attack. Cyan goes by herself to the coral to help them and to do the mission, to do the job that they've been hired to do. And she sees she can, so think about it like echolocation. With their powers, they can kind of see into the ground and they can sense things in spatial location and they can sense the size of something that is underground. So when she goes there and she tries to see with her mind what is under the water, she realizes that the coral is actually on top of something, on top of a solid sort of structure. So she tells them, like, you shouldn't destroy this because you don't know what's underneath. And they're like, no, we paid you to take the coral, destroy the coral and get out of here. And she's like, no, you shouldn't, you should study it. You should take some years to, you know, see what's happening. And they're like, no, we're just going to lose a lot of money. Our village requires the trading from the ships to survive, so just do your job and shut up. And she's like, okay, fine. So she destroys the coral, and then guess what? It doesn't go well. Turns out that the thing the coral was on top of is like an obelisk, and there's a few of these around the continent, so they do pass a few on their way to this coastal town. But they're basically just there. They don't really do anything. Sometimes they move a little bit, but they're just there, like a few kilometers on top of the ground. So she destroys the coral and something comes out of the water, and it's this sort of obelisk that comes out, and it's actually like kind of broken. And it's a long story, but there's a bit of an explosion and it does not go well at all. And like all this power comes out and it creates a huge shake and it basically destroys the whole city. Yeah. At this point, we pause and we go back to Esun, to the original story, right? So Esun has left her town and she is traveling to find her husband for revenge. Along the way, she meets a small boy called Hoa that is really weird and acts really weird. He looks like a boy, but he's not a boy, but she doesn't know what he is. And he's just following her, so she just lets him. They also meet an older lady, and she starts to follow them around as well. So in the end, it's like the slow bunch of the three of them trying to cross the whole continent, trying to find her husband. And one of the reasons why she sticks with Hoa is because he is able to sense where her husband went. He can follow or sense origins. So he can actually catch the scent, and he knows where her daughter went to. So they're traveling for days. They encounter a lot of obstacles, a lot of problems. All the towns were destroyed. The food was destroyed. So everyone is in a apocalypse scenario kind of thing where everyone's trying to find food and shelter and water and killing people over it. So it's very much apocalypse style. But the three of them, they're just going their way. They finally make it to this small deserted village, and Ho is like, yeah, this is where the path leads. Like, this is, I can sense that this is where they stopped. But it looks really deserted, it looks abandoned, and they find 4 people like in front of a house, and they have a bit of a standoff, and they're like, what are you doing here? Oh, we're here looking for my daughter and my husband, etc. And then they're like, okay, well, you're an origin, so we're just gonna let you in. And they go underground, and they find this huge village that is basically built underground, which is very, very strange, because in a world where earthquakes are very common, anything that is underground tends to get destroyed. So it's not sustainable to live underground. And she asked them this, but the lady who's in charge, Ika, she tells her, well, we are a community, we are a very special community, we are a community of origins. It's like, what do you mean? Like, there's only the origins that are running away, or the origins that are working for the empire. And she's like, no, we are a special kind. No, we are a special group. We got together, we envisioned another way of life, and we realized that the world would be a better place, or the community, our society would be a better place if the origins were in charge. So here the origins are the ones that are ruling. And the origins, they're able to control the ground and the soil, so that if there's an earthquake, the underground city does not collapse, which is amazing in its own. Okay. We pause here to jump to Damaya again, our little girl that is in Fulcrum, trying to learn, trying to keep her head down, not make too many enemies. And one day, a new girl shows up in her class, and she's very obviously not belonging there. And Damaya notices this and goes talk to the girl, and the girl is actually like, yeah, I'm here just hiding, and I'm looking for something. I need your help. Can you please help me? And Damaya is like, sure, I mean, I've walked around this place everywhere. If you're looking for something, I can probably help you. And they walk around the entire school, and they go underground to another room, and they finally find, after a lot of looking, they finally find what the other girl is looking for, which is a hidden room in the center of the Black Star, the building that they have. And it's a hidden room without a door. But the Maya, because of her powers, she can sense that there is a door. It's just made out of soil, so she can move it, right? So she moves the door, and they enter. And then there's a huge hole in the middle of the room, and she's feeling like beckoned to it, like being called and pulled into it. And she kind of almost hypnotized, goes in, and she almost falls, but the other girl catches her. And in the middle of all of this, they actually get caught by the Empire Guardians, and Shafa finds her. And she is in big trouble because they were in a forbidden area. She used her powers without approval, and it's not looking good. Like, at this point, they're probably going to kill her because she broke the rules. And then Shafa tells her, like, okay, you know what? You need to do the test right now. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, the test for the first ring, you need to do it right now, because if you do the test and you pass, then they will forgive you, because technically you'll be part of the Empire Origins. And she's like, and what if I fail? He's like, well, if you fail, you're gonna die. So he pushes her to do the test, and she does the test, and it's quite difficult, but she passes, so everything is fine. And then we jump again to Cien, who at this point becomes one of the larger parts of the story, because when she pulled the coral out of the water and the obelisk came through it with it, and the whole village was destroyed, her and Alabaster, or Baster for short, they get saved by something. There's this being, there's this type of being that is not human, and she calls them stone eaters because it looks like their skin is made out of stone, like white stone. And this being can actually travel through walls and ground and everything. It's kind of weird. And the stone eater saves them at the right time and takes them to an island, which again is another place that should not exist, because in a world that is constantly hit by earthquakes, tsunamis follow and islands are destroyed, right? But no, there's an island, Meoth, that exists, and it is ruled by pirates, basically, because they don't really have a lot of crops or a lot of goods. So in order to survive, they actually take their ships and they pirate and they steal and kill people for what they have. It's a way to survive. It's a very tight-knit community. They're very close, and they're actually ruled by an origin, another one that I guess they figured out that the most powerful person should be the one in charge. And this pirate, you know, he's very charming, full of charisma, very handsome, and very quickly both Cian and Baster fall in love with him. So this is when we also figure out that Baster and Cian, they've been sleeping together for like a month or so, but as I've said, they hate each other, and Baster is actually more interested in men than women. So he really hates the fact that the Empire is constantly forcing him to have sexual relations with women just to procreate, because he's been doing this for years. Like, they've been making him do this for years. He has a bunch of origin kids around the continent, because if they're born and they're not origin, they get sold or killed. So Cian and Baster, they kind of want to leave, but there's no way to leave the island. And of course, they start to make a life. They both fall in love with this pirate guy, and after months, they find their way in they find their place in their society. They're helping. It's the first time in their life that they actually have some freedom, because the Empire doesn't know that they're alive. They think that they died when the whole earthquake destroyed the coastal city, Alia. So for once, they can do what they want. With their powers, they can help keep the island safe, control any tsunamis or any earthquakes that are coming. And they start a bit of a family with this pirate guy. They all sleep together, and Cian actually becomes pregnant. And at this point, they don't even know if the kid is from Baster or from the pirate, but they don't care. It's like it's the kid with 3 parents, and they all love him so much. They call him Karandrum, and they really love the kid, and they're having a happy life for years. But of course, Cian, she is eager for adventure, and she's not the kind of girl that would stay still for a really long time, and she does want something more. So she tries to help them, and she convinces them to let her go when they're going pirating. And the one time she goes, she actually makes it worse. You know, they get attacked, and then she uses her powers to help them. And at this point, she's very, very powerful. She never passed the other test, so she's technically still a 4-ringer, but she's very, very powerful, and she's been learning from Baster for years as well. So when they pass by the coast, when they're going with the ship, she thinks that she sees a guardian on the coast, but she's not sure, and she's like, no, I'm just imagining things. And then when they get into a fight with another ship, she uses her powers. And it was true, the guardian had seen her, and he saw that there was someone with powers in one of the islands. So guess what? They go back to the island, and a few days later, ships are coming to the island full of guardians, because they know that that's where Baster and Cian are hidden. They attack the island. A lot of people die. It's horrible. Cian and the pirate, they're fighting. Baster wants to fight, but as they start to lose the Stone Eater that he calls Antimony for some reason, the Stone Eater comes back and takes him away, you know, through the ground, so he can't fight. And he's trying to stay. He wants to stay. He wants to help his family, but Antimony is taking him away. And the last thing he tells Cian is, don't let them take Corundum. Don't let them take our baby. He cannot be a part of the Empire. He cannot serve them. He's too pure. He's too powerful. They're just going to break him or kill him. Do not let them take our baby. He disappears into the ground. Cian is fighting. She's trying her best. The pirate dies. It's very, very sad. And she finally understands that they're going to lose because the Guardians are too powerful. The Guardians have a way to nullify their powers. So whenever the Guardians are within a range, they can actually stop the Origin's power. So they actually can only fight with their hands and with their weapons. So she understands that they're going to lose, and she has to make a decision because she wants to keep the promise that she made that she wouldn't let them take her baby. And since they're losing, the only way to do that is if her baby is not alive. So she makes the ultimate sacrifice and she kills him. And she knows that she was also going to die. She kills him first, and then she tries to take her own life, and she kind of passes out at some point. the chapter ends and we jump back to Esun, the original story. Esun is in this underground city trying to understand what's next. They ask her to stay and to become a part of their underground community. And she says, no, I have to go find my husband and my daughter. But they stay, they rest a little bit. She's still accompanied by Hoa and the old lady. And while Esun is underground, someone comes to her and says like, hey, there's someone here that needs to see you. This person asked for you specifically. And she goes to the room and it's Alabaster. Really old at this point. He's almost dying. He's sick. And you understand that he's the guy from the beginning of the story. He's the one that created this huge earthquake. And the person that was next to him when he was doing that was Antimony, the Stone Eater. So there is this huge plan or like something bigger than all of them happening. And the Stone Eater and her race, they are manipulating the humans and the Haragenes, and they have a plan for what is going to happen to the planet and the continent. And Alabaster is part of that plan. So he was following orders. Esun arrives and she's like, oh my God, like, it's you, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, it's you, Cyanide. She's like, no, it's Esun now. I had to leave and start a new life. And you're like, what? So turns out that Cyanide, when she disappeared, she was taken somewhere and she woke up and she recovered and she just went to a random village and she tried to restart her life. You know, she had no one left and she just changed her name to Esun. So they're both the same person. And you also find out that the little girl from the beginning, the Maya, she is also the same person, because when she passed her test and she won her first ring, they asked her, okay, now you are Fulcrum Origin. What do you want your name to be? I want to be called Cyanide. So all three points of view are the same person. The Maya became Cyanide, who became Esun. So we're in the very, very last chapter, and Esun is talking to Alabaster, and he tells her, like, I understand why you killed our son, but I'll never forgive you for it. And then he's saying, like, I need your help. And she's like, oh my God, it was you. Like, you're the one who started the huge earthquake. He's like, yes, I was. And now I need your help. He's like, I'm not going to help you fix it. He's like, no, what do you mean fix it? Like, I need you to make it worse. And then the last line of the book is Alabaster telling the Maya / Cyanide / Esun, have you ever heard of something called the moon? You're like, what? So this whole book, you realize that not once have they talked about the moon. You know, it's always the sun, or it's always the clouds, or it's always the ash from the fires, from the earthquake, and not once did they talk about the moon. So this is kind of setting it up for the next book. It's a trilogy, and I really want to read the second one now. I haven't read it yet, but oh my God, I just finished the book. Like, what are you talking about? What is happening? So there you go. There's the book. Thank you for sticking with me on this wild ride. See you next time.